The bridge at Harper's Creek. Harry Brennan stood on his porch at dawn, watching the sunrise over the Wyoming plains, and felt nothing. Not nothing like indifference. Nothing like the absence of sensation itself. Like watching someone else watch a sunrise. Like the whole world was behind glass. Like he was a ghost observing a life that didn't quite belong to him. His hand didn't feel like hand gripped the porch railing. The wood felt distant. Theoretical. Like the idea of wood rather than the thing itself. 42 years old. Ranch owner. Husband to Margaret. Father to Carrie, age 9. These were facts Harry knew. But knowing them felt different than feeling them. The facts existed in his head like words in a book. True, but not real. The condition had started 2 years ago. After the accident. After the horse had thrown him and he'd hit his head on the fence post. He'd woken in bed with Margaret hovering over him. Dr. Turner checking his pupils, and the strangest sensation that he was watching the scene from somewhere else. Somewhere above and behind his own body. The feeling never fully went away. Dr. Turner had called it depersonalization. A disorder of perception, he'd said. Your mind trying to protect itself from trauma. Makes you feel disconnected from yourself. Like you're not real. How long does it last? Harry had asked. Turner had looked uncomfortable. Sometimes it fades. Sometimes it doesn't. 2 years later, it hadn't faded. Harry lived in a perpetual dream state. The ranch, 300 acres along Harper's Creek, felt like a painting he was walking through. His daughter's laughter sounded like it was coming from underwater. Margaret's touch registered as pressure, but not warmth. Not connection. And always the fear. What if I'm losing my mind? What if none of this is real? What if I'm already dead and don't know it? The existential terror would hit at random moments. Harry would be shoeing a horse and suddenly think, is this horse real? Am I real? What does real even mean? His chest would tighten. His vision would narrow. The world would feel even more distant, more dreamlike, more impossible. And he'd have to keep working, keep functioning, keep pretending he was a normal man living a normal life, while feeling like a ghost haunting his own existence. Papa! Carrie's voice. Harry turned, the movement feeling delayed, like his body had to catch up to his intention. Carrie stood in the doorway. Blonde braids, blue dress. His daughter. He knew this, but the knowing was intellectual. The feeling of fatherhood, the warm recognition, the love, it was muted. Behind glass. Mama says breakfast is ready. I'll be right there. Carrie studied him with those too perceptive 9-year-old eyes. Are you feeling strange again? Harry's chest tightened. She'd noticed. Of course she had. Children always noticed. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking. You have that look. Like you're far away. I'm far away. I'm always far away. Even when I'm right here. I'm right here, Harry said aloud, trying to convince himself as much as her. Carrie didn't look convinced, but she went back inside. Harry followed, moving through the morning routine. Breakfast with the family. Margaret talking about the garden. Carrie quiet, watching him with worried eyes. Harry ate the food, tasted it in a distant way, and tried to respond appropriately. Try to be present. But it was like acting in a play, going through the motions of being Harry Brennan, husband and father, while the real Harry watched from somewhere else. After breakfast, Harry went to check the fence line on the eastern property. Routine work. Familiar. Maybe that would help ground him. But as he rode across the land he'd owned for 15 years, everything felt surreal. The horse beneath him didn't feel quite solid. The prairie grass waving in the wind looked artificial, like a stage set. His own hands holding the reins looked foreign. Strange. Whose hands are these? Who is this person riding this horse? The terror spiked. Harry pulled the horse to a stop, dismounted, stood in the middle of the empty prairie with his heart hammering and his vision swimming. I'm losing my mind. This is insanity. Normal people don't feel like this. He forced himself to breathe, to touch the grass, to feel the ground beneath his boots. Dr. Turner had taught him techniques. When the derealization hits, engage your senses. Touch something textured. Smell something strong. It helps anchor you. Harry pulled a stem of sage, crushed it, inhaled deeply. The scent registered. Sharp, distinct. For a moment, the world felt slightly more real. Then he saw them. 4 riders, coming from the direction of the Johnson property, moving toward Harper's Creek. Harry recognized them, even at a distance. Hank Johnson, his sons, Lyle and Porter, and Hank's brother-in-law, Wade Cutler. Neighbors, men who'd fallen on hard times after 2 years of drought killed their cattle and ruined their crops. Men who'd grown bitter, desperate. Men who'd made it clear they believed Harry's Creek, the water that still ran strong through his land, should be shared or taken. Harry mounted his horse, rode to intercept them. They met at the creek. The 4 men stopped their horses, looked at Harry with expressions that ranged from resentful to openly hostile. "Harry," Hank said, "no warmth in it." "Hank, what brings you to my land?" "Just riding through. Thought we'd water the horses." It was a test. Technically, Harry could refuse. The creek was on his property. But denying men water in drought country, that crossed a line. "Help yourselves," Harry said. The horses drank. The men didn't dismount, just sat there, staring at Harry with hard faces. Lyle Johnson, youngest son, maybe 20, spoke up. "Must be nice, having all this water while our cattle die." "I'm sorry about your troubles," Harry said. And he was, or he would be, if he could feel anything properly. "But this is my land. Land you got because your father bought it cheap after the war," Wade Cutler said. While the rest of us were fighting. The old grievance. Harry's father had been too old to serve in the Civil War, had stayed in Wyoming, had bought land cheap when other men were away dying. "That was 30 years ago," Harry said, "before I was born. Don't make it right." Harry felt the unreality creeping in. The men in front of him looked like characters in a play. The conversation felt scripted. Unreal. Is this happening? Are these men real? Am I? He forced himself to focus. Water your horses and move on. Don't come back without invitation. Hank Johnson smiled. "No humor in it. Or what? You'll defend this place alone? Against all of us? If I have to." "You in what army, Brennan? You got a wife and a kid. You really want to make this a fight?" The threat was clear. Harry felt his chest tighten, the derealization intensifying. The men looked like shadows. Unreal. Maybe he could just close his eyes and they'd disappear. Maybe none of this was happening. Maybe, "Leave," Harry said, voice harder than he felt. "Now." The men looked at each other. Then Hank nodded. "We're going. But Harry, you should think about being neighborly, sharing that water, before someone decides to take it." They rode off. Harry sat his horse, watching them go, feeling the terror rising. Because the threat was real, and Harry didn't know if he could defend against it. Didn't know if he could fight for something, his home, his family, when he barely felt connected to it. When the whole world felt like a dream he might wake up from. That night, Harry lay in bed beside Margaret, staring at the ceiling. "You're worried about Hank Johnson," Margaret said quietly. "Yes. Do you think he'll come back? Try to take the ranch?" "I think he's desperate enough to try." Margaret was quiet. Then, "Harry, are you here? With me? Or are you in that other place?" The other place. That's what she called it. The depersonalization. The unreality. "I'm trying to be here," Harry said. "But you're not." "Not really." The pain in her voice should have hurt him. Should have made him feel something. But it just registered as information. Distant. Theoretical. "I'm sorry," Harry said. Because he was. Even if he couldn't feel it properly. Margaret sat up, turned to face him in the darkness. "Harry, I need to tell you something. And I need you to really hear me. I'm listening. I'm losing you. Not to another woman. Not to drink or violence or any of the things I could fight against. I'm losing you to this fog. And I don't know how to reach you anymore." Harry felt something crack. Not the full weight of emotion. He couldn't access that. But a recognition of truth. "I don't know how to reach myself," Harry said quietly. "Then help me understand. What's it like? Inside your head?" Harry had never tried to fully explain it. Had always given abbreviated versions. But Margaret was asking for the truth. "It's like I'm a passenger," Harry said slowly. "Like I'm sitting behind my own eyes watching someone else live my life. I see you. I see Carrie. I see this ranch. And I know, intellectually, that I love you. That this matters. But the knowing and the feeling are disconnected. Like reading about love in a book versus actually feeling it. So when I touch you, I feel the pressure, the warmth, but it's distant, like it's happening to someone else. Margaret was quiet. Is it always this bad? It varies. Sometimes I can almost reach the feeling, almost connect. But then something, a look, a word, just existing, triggers the fear that none of it's real, that I'm insane, that this is all delusion. And I fall back into the fog. What are you afraid of when you say none of it's real? Harry had to think about that. I'm afraid that I died when that horse threw me, that I've been dead for 2 years, and this is, I don't know, purgatory, hell, a dying hallucination. I'm afraid that you're not real, that Carrie's not real, that I'm talking to ghosts or figments of my broken mind. But you know that's not true. Do I? How do I know? How does anyone know they're not insane? The insane don't know they're insane. They think their delusions are real. Margaret took his hand, held it firmly. Can you feel this? Yes, distantly. That's real. I'm real. And Harry, you can't think your way out of this. The more you try to logic whether you're real or sane, the deeper you fall into the terror. You need to trust something beyond your thoughts. Trust what? Your actions, your choices. The fact that you get up every morning and work this ranch and care for Carrie and lie here with me. Those are real things. Even if you can't feel them fully, you're doing them. That's evidence, isn't it? That you're here, that this matters. Harry absorbed this. So I should trust what I do more than what I feel. Or what you think. Yes. Margaret paused. I've been reading about your condition. There's not much written, but Dr. Turner lent me some medical texts. And Harry, this isn't uncommon. After head injuries, after trauma, the mind protects itself by creating distance. But the distance becomes its own prison. Did the book say how to get out? They said sometimes it fades, sometimes it doesn't. But they also said the people who cope best are the ones who learn to act despite the unreality, who don't wait to feel better before living, who just live anyway, act as if it matters, even when I can't feel if it matters. Exactly. Harry looked at his wife in the darkness, saw her face, still beautiful, still familiar, still somehow distant. What if I can't, he asked. What if Johnson comes back with men and I can't defend this place because nothing feels real enough to fight for? Then we'll face that when it comes. But Harry, you've been fighting for 2 years, fighting to stay present, fighting to function, fighting this terror in your head. That's not nothing. That's strength. It doesn't feel like strength because you can't feel anything properly, but it is. You think a weak man could live like this? Could function while his mind tells him nothing is real? You're the strongest person I know. Harry wanted to believe her, wanted to feel the truth of it, but all he could do was know it. And maybe, right now, knowing was enough. 3 days later, Harry was repairing the barn when he saw the dust cloud. Riders, coming fast. He grabbed his rifle, went to the porch. Margaret came out. What is it? Trouble. Get Carrie. Take her to the root cellar. Bar it from inside. Harry, please. I need to know you're both safe. Otherwise, I can't think clearly. Margaret looked at him, some understanding passing between them. Then she nodded. Come back to us. I'll try. She kissed him, quick, firm, then went inside. Harry stood alone on the porch, rifle ready, watching the riders approach. 6 men this time. Hank Johnson and his group, plus 2 more Harry recognized from town. Men with nothing to lose. They stopped 50 yards out. Hank called. We're here for the water, Brennan. You can let us have it peaceable, or we can take it. Your choice. This is my land. My water. You're not taking it. 1 man against 6. Those aren't good odds. Then you better be prepared to kill me. Because I won't hand it over. Don't be a fool. You got a family. Think about them. Harry felt it washing over him. The unreality. The sense that this was a scene in a play. That these men weren't real. That none of this mattered because nothing was real. Just let them have it. This isn't real anyway. You're just a ghost in a dream. But Margaret's words echoed. Trust your actions. What you do is real, even if you can't feel it. And Harry made a choice. Not based on feeling, based on knowing. This land was his. His family was in the root cellar. These men were threatening what belonged to him. He couldn't feel the attachment, couldn't feel the fear or the righteousness or the determination. But he could act anyway. I'll give you 10 seconds to leave, Harry said. Then I start shooting. The men looked at each other. Wade Cutler drew his pistol. Harry didn't think, just raised a rifle and fired. The shot kicked up dust at Wade's horse's feet. The horse spooked. Wade almost fell. Next one won't miss, Harry said. The men circled their horses, angry, but uncertain. Finally, Hank said, "This isn't over, Brennan. We'll be back, with more men. And next time we won't ask." They rode off. Harry stood on the porch, shaking, not from fear, from the effort of staying present, of acting decisively when everything felt unreal. Margaret emerged from the house. She'd been watching from a window, not in the cellar after all. "You sent them away. For now. But they'll be back. What will you do?" Harry looked at her. "I don't know. I can't fight 15 men. Maybe 20. Not alone. Then we leave. We go somewhere else. Start over. This is our home. A home doesn't matter if you're dead." Harry felt the truth of it, but also something else. Some stubborn core that refused to run, even though running made sense. "I need to think," Harry said. That night, Harry sat in his study. The room his father had built, lined with books his father had collected. Harry pulled one at random, an old volume of Roman history, opened it, and found himself reading about Horatio Cockles, the Roman soldier who defended a bridge single-handedly against an invading army. Harry read the story, how Horatio had stood alone on the Sublician Bridge while the Etruscan army charged, how he'd held them off while his fellow Romans destroyed the bridge behind him, how he'd known it was probably suicide but had done it anyway, to save Rome. At the end, Horatio had jumped into the Tiber River in full armor. By all accounts, he should have drowned, but somehow impossibly he'd survived, swam to the other side, lived to tell the tale. Harry read it twice. Something about it reaching through the fog of unreality. Horatio hadn't questioned whether Rome was real, whether the bridge was real, whether his sacrifice mattered. He'd simply stood and fought and trusted that it mattered even if he couldn't be certain of anything else. Harry closed the book, sat thinking. He was afraid, not the normal fear of death or pain, but the deeper terror that if he died defending something he couldn't feel was real, his death would be meaningless. That he'd die for a delusion. But what if meaning wasn't about feeling? What if it was about choosing? Margaret found him an hour later, sat beside him. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "About meaning, about reality, about whether I can die for something I can't feel." "You're planning to stay, to fight." "I think so, but I'm terrified of dying for nothing. What if this ranch, this family, this whole life, what if it's all delusion? What if I'm insane and I don't know it? Then dying to defend it would be pointless." Margaret was quiet. Then, "I can't prove to you that this is real. I can't prove you're not insane. No one can prove that to anyone, really. We all just trust that our perceptions are more or less accurate. But you don't doubt it. You feel certain, most of the time. But Harry, certainty isn't the same as truth. You're not certain this is real, but your actions suggest you believe it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have defended it today. Wouldn't be sitting here agonizing over whether to defend it again. So I should trust my actions over my feelings, over your doubts." "Yes." She paused. "I've been thinking about something, about how you cope with this condition. You use your senses, right? Dr. Turner taught you to engage with texture, smell, sound." "Yes. It helps ground me sometimes." What if you thought about other people the same way? As evidence, not of what you feel, but of what exists. Carrie exists. I exist. We're evidence that this is real, that you're not alone in a delusion. But if I'm insane, I'd imagine you too. Then there's no way out. If you assume everything is potentially delusion, you're trapped. You have to make a leap of faith at some point. You have to trust that other people are real, that their existence is evidence. Harry thought about this. "So, I choose to believe you're real. You choose to act as if we're real. And let that be enough. And if I'm wrong, then you lived and died according to your values. Protected what you believed mattered. Stood for something. That's not meaningless, Harry. Even if your perception was flawed, your character wasn't. Your choices weren't." Harry looked at his wife. Really looked. And made a decision. He couldn't feel certain this was real. Couldn't feel the full weight of love or attachment or meaning. But he could choose to act as if it mattered, could stand for what he believed was worth standing for. Could be Horatio at the bridge. I'm staying, Harry said. I'm going to defend this place. Against how many men? However many come. I'll send you and Carrie to town. To safety. But I'm staying. Why? Because running means giving up. Means letting fear and doubt control me. And I've been controlled by fear for 2 years. Fear that I'm not real. That nothing matters. That I'm insane. I'm tired of it, Margaret. I'm tired of living in the fog. So you're going to fight your way out? No. I'm going to act despite it. Going to make a choice based on values instead of feelings. Going to stand for something even though I can't feel if that something is real. Margaret took his hand. Then I'm staying too. No. You and Carrie, I'm your wife. This is my home too. If you're making a stand, we make it together. I can't protect you if you're here. I'm not asking you to protect me. I'm asking you to let me stand with you. Harry felt it. Faint, but there, a flicker of something that might have been gratitude, or love, or recognition that he wasn't alone. Thank you, he said. They came 4 days later. At dawn, 15 men. Harry had sent Carrie to town with the pastor's wife. That much Margaret had agreed to. But Margaret had stayed. And now she stood beside Harry on the porch, her own rifle in hand. You can still go, Harry said. So can you. They watched the riders approach. The unreality was overwhelming. The men looked like ghosts. The sunrise looked painted. Harry's own body felt like a costume he was wearing. But Harry had made his choice. He couldn't trust his feelings, couldn't trust his perception, but he could trust his values. This land mattered. His family mattered. And he would stand. Hank Johnson called from horseback. Last chance, Brennan. Walk away. Both of you. We'll let you live. Harry raised his rifle. This is Harper's Creek. My land. And you're not crossing it. Two people can't stop 15. We can try. Hank shook his head. So be it. What happened next was chaos. The men spread out, approaching from multiple angles. Harry picked his first target, Wade Cutler, and fired. Wade went down, shoulder shot. Margaret fired. Another man down. The attackers scattered, returning fire. Bullets hit the porch, the house. Harry and Margaret dropped behind cover. Harry moved through the house, firing from windows. The derealization was crushing. Every shot felt distant. Every movement delayed. He was watching himself fight from somewhere else. But he kept moving, kept shooting, kept acting, because this was his bridge, and he would hold it. A bullet grazed his arm. Pain registered distantly. Blood on his shirt. Was it real? Was any of this real? Doesn't matter. Act anyway. Stand anyway. Margaret was beside him, reloading, firing again. Her presence grounding him in a way he couldn't fully explain. The attackers were falling back, shocked that two people were causing such damage. Hank Johnson charged the house, kicked in the door, came at Harry with a shotgun. Harry met him in the hallway. They grappled. The shotgun went off. Margaret screamed. Harry wrestled the gun away, hit Hank with the stock. Hank went down. Harry stumbled out onto the porch. 7 men left, all looking at him with fear now. Leave, Harry said, voice hollow but certain. Or die here. Your choice. The men looked at each other, at their fallen, at Harry, bleeding but still standing, at Margaret, rifle still ready. And they broke, turned their horses, fled. Harry watched them go, then collapsed. Margaret was beside him immediately. Let me see that arm. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Are you hurt? No. Just scared. Me too. Except I can't feel it properly. Margaret laughed, a strange, high sound. You can't feel fear, but you can still fight. That's either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the most insane. Maybe both. Dr. Turner arrived 3 hours later. Patched Harry's arm. It's not bad. You'll heal. How many did we kill? None. You hurt 7 men. They'll all live, though they're leaving the territory. After Turner left, Harry and Margaret sat on the porch. The world still felt unreal to Harry. Dreamlike. Impossible. But he'd stood. He'd fought. He'd acted according to his values despite the unreality. You proved something today, Margaret said quietly. What? That you can act even when you can't feel. That meaning isn't about certainty. It's about choice. I still don't feel real. I know, but you did real things, defended real land, protected a real family. The derealization hasn't changed, but maybe your relationship to it has. Harry thought about this. What do you mean? Before, you were paralyzed by it, waiting to feel real before you acted. But today you acted despite feeling unreal. You didn't let the fog control you, so I can live with it, even if it never goes away. Maybe that's the point. Not to wait for it to go away, but to live anyway. Carrie came home that evening, ran to Harry, held him. Papa, Mama told me what happened. You fought the bad man. We did. Were you scared? Harry thought about it. I don't know. I can't feel things the way other people do, but I knew it was the right thing to stand for our home. So I did, even though you feel strange, especially because I feel strange, because I couldn't trust my feelings. Had to trust something else. My values. My choices. Carrie looked at him seriously. You're real, Papa, even if you don't feel it. Thank you, sweetheart. That night, lying in bed, Harry spoke into the darkness. Margaret, yes. Thank you for staying, for standing with me. Of course. And thank you for helping me see that feeling and being aren't the same. That I can be real even while feeling unreal. You taught me something too. What? That courage isn't the absence of fear or doubt. It's acting rightly despite them. Harry reached for her hand. Felt it, distant but there. I still can't feel the fullness of this. Of us. Of love. I know, but I know it's real. I choose to believe it's real. And I'll act accordingly. That's enough, Harry. More than enough. They lay in silence. Harry still felt like a ghost. Still felt the persistent terror that none of this was real. But he'd learned something crucial. He didn't have to wait for the feeling to change before living his life. Didn't have to feel certain to act with certainty. Didn't have to feel real to do real things. He just had to choose, to stand, to act according to his values. Like Horatio at the bridge, not knowing if he'd survive, not certain of the outcome, but standing anyway because it was right. The depersonalization would never fully leave Harry. He'd live the rest of his life feeling slightly unreal, slightly disconnected, always behind glass. But he'd also live, fully, completely, because he'd learned that feeling and being were different things. That you could feel like a ghost and still fight like a man. That meaning came from choice, not certainty. And that standing mattered, even when you weren't sure the ground beneath you was solid. Harry closed his eyes. The world still felt dreamlike, but his hand in Margaret's felt warm, distant but there, and that, he decided, was real enough.